Hey, you have Patrick Findaro here, co-founder at Vetted Biz. Today, I'm very excited to have on two executives at Postnet, Ryan Farris, who's the COO of President of Postnet, as well as Bill McPherson, who's the VP of Franchise Development. Today, we're going to talk all about the printing industry, what the Postnet franchise is, opportunities, especially how they've adapted to COVID, and let's just kick it right off. I'm curious to hear a bit more, Ryan, and then Bill, how you got into the printing space and franchising space.
Yeah, great question. So, I would say right out of college or during college, I got into the print marketing and even shipping space. Trying to run a small business, support other customers. You need shipping, you quickly need printing and marketing, and looking for those providers or providing myself with something that I found really attractive. So wound up really entrenched in the industry, loved it, joined a corporation, then eventually wanted to start my own business doing it. And then after a successful exit of my own company, I found the franchise world, and I had no idea, how rewarding it would be to blend, big company with entrepreneurs. And that was a perfect mix for me, doing both myself. And I really enjoyed it ever since. So I'm excited to continue every day working with entrepreneurs and helping them with their ambitions around printing, marketing, and shipping related services.
And Bill, how about you? How did you get in this space?
Yeah, I appreciate you having us, Patrick.
Sure.
So for franchise perspective, I was a top salesperson for a staffing company in Northern California, and they were all corporate owned at the time. And they decided they wanted to start franchising. So to take that model and roll it out via franchise model. So they asked me to really develop all facets of it, which was pretty phenomenal because this was 29 years ago, and had to do everything from setting up the recruiting, marketing the franchises, supporting them, training, et cetera. And then as far as the print industry, I was recruited by an executive recruiter about 15 years ago for one of Alpha Graphics' competitors, and spent 8 years as an executive there, and then went to a in-home senior care concept, and then was recruited by MB Worldwide about 3.5 years ago.
And from all I understand, my brother works for one of the largest trading companies of paper and pulp, which is indirectly in the same space, but they've done pretty well throughout COVID and with the rise of e-commerce. And I'm curious to just hear kind of how the printing industry has evolved in light of COVID, and then just like the last few years with e-commerce.
Yeah. No, that's, I think, everybody's question when we think about business investing growth in a pandemic period of time that we're in. And I would say what's really neat about Postnet is it's all about providing, services for small and medium businesses, even micro businesses. And the pandemic has really spawned a lot of that. A lot of people now starting their own businesses, working from home, creating additional revenue streams that might be that side job. And they all need those small business services that a Postnet provides, whether it's shipping, which has just exploded during the pandemic. We've had in the industry 30% growth in shipping services, or printing and marketing services where, hey, we're still open, we're still in business. Please come and use our products and services, or help them be found online. So because of those things, we've seen great growth in our industry, whether it's the print and marketing services that the Postnet offers, or the shipping and parcel services. It's really done phenomenally well, probably even better than normal during the pandemic, to be honest.
How about just like the whole work from home? Like, do you see that further impacting your business as people go from working at the office maybe 5 days a week to now just 1 day, two days a week, or zero, especially in the tech sector?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, just, as people continue to need to do business, and then finding new ways of doing business, and whether that's printing, delivering marketing materials, shipping stuff, as Ryan said, I mean, it's actually boded very well the last couple of years for actually both of our brands. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, on both ends, right? Because of the remoteness and maybe travel restrictions, residential shipping's up, which is great for a Postnet. But the work from home, or even employing people that aren't in your home state anymore means now I'm going to a local shipping provider or procuring my local marketing assets because I don't have a big printer, I don't have a copier, I don't want to pay for shipping from my house, or even I don't want the package to come to my house because I don't want to give people my personal address. So all of those, whether you're a corporation working from home or a independent business working from home, have really, I think, kind of propped up a lot of the traffic that we're seeing.
And I imagine like a lot of middle executives that just like had an assistant that dealt with the printing, like they don't want to deal with issues if their home scanner or their home printer is not working, and they just want to have someone deal with it, whether it's a full-time employee or if it's Postnets that just gets the job done.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's kind of like those office printers have seen probably a dry up of business, and some of these Postnets are seeing kind of the return of some of that use just because of the shift of where they're working.
And how do you guys like see the competitive landscape? Are you competing with other national franchises, or is it like corporate business models like you saw in your previous life, Bill, that are just company owned and not operated by franchisees?
No, I think that, I mean, the industry, from my perspective, we have 3 or 4 franchise, national, regional competitors, but predominantly the industry is still mom and pop. And so it really gives us an opportunity from a customer service, technology, service offerings to differentiate, because the vast majority of the industry, being mom and pop, they don't have the support of the franchise, the network of the franchisees, the buying power, et cetera, et cetera. So it really gives us a lot of opportunity to differentiate.
Yeah, I mean, I think, statistically speaking, the growth in just say parcel side of the business has been 30% from 2019 to 2020. I think once we see 2021's results, it'll even be equal or greater.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a substantial, growth from 2019. But the number of providers that offer those shipping and logistics services have only grown 5.1%. So that means there's a bigger, market share for pretty much almost the same quantity of providers out there. And so that's why it's been so attractive for new entrepreneurs to open up a new Postnet or expand into that market, because there's likely not someone, or there's not enough, suppliers, if you will, providing those services in those markets.
And if it's anything like, I've interviewed a few executives at home service businesses, and the mom and pops, they're doing super well, but they're at capacity where they're not going after corporate accounts. They'll take a walk-in, but they're not like aggressively growing. I imagine if there's any parallel that Postnet can open up and like be aggressive in terms of marketing to small businesses and like really keep pushing.
Even the mom and pops, I think, have felt the strain of the workload and the employment, the labor pool. And so we've seen mom and pops opening up to converting to a Postnet to get out of the business. The strain of trying to manage, PPP loans or funding or staffing, keeping up and not having the technology to do it. Kind of went from maybe what we'd call a cruiser job to stress, and they didn't do it for the stress. And so we're seeing maybe a shift to add franchise type of technology, infrastructure, support as an exit, right? To let them move on to out of business or into a different business.
I think one of the other things, Patrick, that's allowed the brand and the franchisees to grow during these unprecedented times is the franchise model and the relationship that they have with the franchisor. So when you're locally owned and operated and trusted in that community, that, especially I think during these times when people want trust, they want to get the proper service, they want their package to arrive, they want their print job to come out right. That trust and that relationship, I think, goes a long way. And so the local franchisee being owned and operated in that community, along with what the franchisor brings to the table with solutions, technology, marketing, et cetera, it's just been a win-win for our franchisees.
Yeah, and I imagine like I've used one of the sister brands, Alpha Graphics, in the past for just like an event in Orlando, and like it was nice having like a national brand that I could rely on that had like a tight process and that could design a banner like pretty fast rather than like sifting through a bunch of Google reviews for mom and pop printing shops.
Yeah.
How the franchisees that are entering in, so not those that are converting to Postnet, but do they have a professional background in the space, or what are like the some of the top performing franchisees? What were they doing before going into Postnet?
I'll let Bill. Bill works with a
Well,
lot of great candidates, so I'll let you speak.
yeah, I mean, clearly the vast majority of our owners, come to us and join this brand without any related experience. So we've got entrepreneurs from accounting, finance, technology, marketing, et cetera. And I think that's a real testament to the franchise system, right? Where we can take people that don't have this experience in print or B2B or B2C and help them be very successful and differentiate from our competitors. So I think that speaks volumes to the partnership between the franchisor and the franchisee. If they have any sort of print or pack and ship or service type of background, surely that probably helps, compared to somebody that doesn't, but certainly not required.
And I would say the success is largely driven by making sure they're passionate, right? We really like an owner operator model where
I was going to ask about
is
that.
in the business.
Yeah.
It's okay to have a little bit of investment and expand, but you're going to do much better. They perform so well when the owner's part of the business, engaged, meeting the customers, working with the employees and the staff. Those are our most successful owners. We've got one up in the New York area. I think he's on to his 5th expansion in the last 2 years. So obviously he's built out infrastructure to do that, but he knows the business inside and out. He loves the customers. He loves the model, and he embraces the franchise. That's the other piece, is where we see high success. They're open to learning, training. We work as great partners. And where we sometimes see it not quite work is where maybe they think they know it all, or maybe they're not implementing some of those best practices. And you kind of wonder, there's no reason to join a franchise brand unless you want those tools and those skills.
And that particular owner, Patrick, I don't even think Ryan knows this yet, contacted me this week to do a 6th location in Virginia. And he's bringing more family members into the Postnet family and under his umbrella.
That's a big testament, especially bringing family members into the business. I worked
Yes.
with my brother, been his partner for 7 years, and like it was definitely, I wanted to make sure that it was as most as possible chance of success before bringing a family member on board.
Absolutely.
And I think that the active owner operator, like especially in this market where labor is tight and the corporate culture is so important, and people keeping your employees engaged. If you have some manager that isn't so bought in on the business, it's probably tough to keep high employment satisfaction and to really set that corporate culture for whether it's just one location or you open up your 6, but the owner is actually going around and very actively involved.
Yeah, it takes a little of that entrepreneur out, and that's the whole magic, if you will, to this model is having that spark and that passion and that love, and it's contagious when it's done well. And I think that's really what drives a lot of the high-end performers in our network.
I mean, you can always tell walking in a restaurant when it's like the owner that is hustling and making sure everyone's happy and the meal was good.
And Patrick, to your point, how they treat their staff and their customers. I mean, we could look at 2 franchise locations having the same tools, technology, marketing that's available by the franchisor, and one's doubling performance from the other. Why? So as much as our team is obviously responsible for bringing in new franchisees and educating them on the model, but as much as we can leverage technology and marketing solutions and services to the customer, it's still people. You have to bring the right people. You have to develop a culture within that franchise location, and treat customers right to get them coming back and refer you new customers.
So in terms of like someone's professional background before they open up a Postnet, like I understand like HR, hiring, firing, training, managing people, sales experience. Are there any other like key attributes that some of the most successful franchisees had and really fine-tune in their prior professional life?
Well, you want me to go first, Ryan?
Yeah, go for it, Bill.
I mean, I'm a little biased just from the lens looking through, bringing in new franchisees and growing the brand. But we tell people through the process and before we award a franchise, follow the model.
Yeah.
I mean, you're joining a franchise to follow a model. And the reason, and that may seem pretty basic, and why wouldn't they? But a lot of times, somebody looking to start a business, they've been successful in their corporate career and other things that they've done. And sometimes, as I say, ego gets in the way. They think they know better. They've managed a $20 million budget. They've managed teams of 20 people. That's great.
Yeah.
You haven't run a Postnet and you haven't been a franchisee. So until you have that understanding and making money and have your team in place, follow the model.
Yeah.
And I don't care
Yeah,
what
they're not the head of product. Like, leave
yeah,
the
I don't care what
product and
background
the
you come
tech
from.
development to Postnet.
Yeah,
corporate.
be engaged and follow the model. I mean, to me, that would be 1A, 1 and 1A.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at candidates, their background is probably irrelevant for the most part. I mean, there's attributes that can help them and maybe give them an edge. But by and large, if they're willing to learn and maybe unlearn and relearn,
Yes.
Yeah.
then they're going to do great, right? And honestly, that honesty, transparency piece, being able to say, I think I'm not doing good, right?
Yes.
I think I'm failing at this. So then they can get the help they need. The ones that everything's hunky-dory, great, nothing wrong, catch up to us, and so we find that the ones that use the network, embrace it, follow the systems and use each other, tend to do much better on average than the rest. And the other thing I'd say that's really neat about Postnet, and I've seen a number of different franchise brands, it's extremely diverse in the type of candidates that we get. So we see owners able to serve underserved communities and really focus on, whether it's an ethnicity, a demographic, a population that fits them and their culture and their history and the background. That actually works even better than their career history, where they can leverage where they live in their community and their connections and their relationships.
Who they're selling to.
That's probably the
they're
biggest
managing.
boost. Yeah. Where the community is excited to welcome them and they're engaged in their community and they give back to their community, employ their community. Those are the rock stars, really, at the end of the day, is that relationship based.
And what's like a day like in the life of a single unit Postnet franchisee owner operator?
Yeah, I think it's. Go ahead, Ryan.
I'll do both, and then Bill can answer it too. But
yeah,
the day in the life of a franchisee is get yourself organized in the morning and get in hopefully 30 minutes before the business opens or anybody else is there, and clear out yesterday's leftovers, right? Just make sure whatever wasn't answered, quote request, estimates, customer needs, and get the day set for success. And then motivate the team in the same way, because they're probably coming in 10 or 20 minutes before the doors open, and get them excited to start off and have a positive day. And then it's getting into, processing the day's work. As an owner, you're probably spending most of your time making sure your team showed up, they're executing their responsibilities, taking care of the counter, taking care of the customer, answering the phones, and you're making sure that estimates are right, you're making money, issues are being addressed. It happens, right? Someone's got to say, oh, what happened? What went wrong? How can I help you? How can I make it right? And that's where we want the owner to be able to spend his time, in the relationships. And I would say that's about half their day. And the other half should be that networking and engaging, right? So get out into the community, go to your local chair, go to your, local events and communities, and build those relationships and work with other businesses. Because that's really their main kind of bread and butter, is other small businesses needing their services. And so that networking is what we really want them to do. So if we could have them half a day in operations and half a day networking and building sales and whatnot, that's a really successful day for an owner.
Yeah, everything Ryan said, obviously, and I would just add from a new franchisee perspective, one of the things we hear quite a bit is the diversity of the business. So as Ryan said, clearly Postnet started out many years ago primarily as a consumer, business to consumer, but there's a huge business to business element to the model as well. So that networking, providing solutions in the community. So you're dealing with customers, you're getting organized, empowering your staff, but then also that networking in the community. One of the things we hear from owners when they talk to franchisees during what we call the validation stage is the franchisees, a lot of them will cite how proud they are, how it makes them feel when they drive through their community and say, hey, I did this for this customer, or I did these yard signs, or I did this at the high school football game. Yeah, because that's my business and that's my way of giving back to the local community and to my neighbors.
And when Ryan mentioned team, like what does the team look like after the guys opened a Postnets, he broke even, and he's like at that income replacement where he's basically living off the business, or a good amount of his life is his costs are coming from that Postnet. Like when it hits that level of civilization, like what's the team look like? How many employees are there?
Yeah, you're going to have as few as 3 to 5 employees, depending on your shifts and how many days a week you're going to try to, in hours, you want to be able to afford services. But I mean, I wouldn't say there's a limit. We have 20 and 30. I mean,
Wow.
a single unit Postnet can be producing, extraordinarily, good revenue, and can have a very large operation. We've seen some that look a lot like other printers and larger shipping companies, because they just built those relationships so well in their community, and therefore they need 10 people, 15 people, working in the operation. And so that's the hope for any owner, is that they're able to build and grow so deep in that territory that they have, a myriad of staff that they can rely on. So almost departments would be the long-term goal. I think a lot of people would love to have someone that is the front counter, another person that is in the printing side, another person working on the outside sales, right? When you can get to a size where you're almost departmentalizing, then you're really starting to feel that, hey, I'm running a bigger business. It's not just me and 2 employees keeping the doors open. It's now a group, it's a team.
And I would imagine like compartmentalizing too, like what the Postnet's franchisees doing and what Postnet's corporate's doing, where they're focused on people, sales, marketing, relationship. They're not focused on new product development, the technology stack and all that other stuff. You guys should be handling that. You handle that, and they just focus on growing their business.
Exactly. I mean, ideally, they've got the bandwidth now to take on additional training, learn the next level of how to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z, right? So using the tools and mastering them is a lot of times where we start to see that next step, where, okay, we're now at a place where this guy can spend a couple hours, in the learning management system. This person can go to headquarters and spend 3 days in a training class, right? I can take this part of the team to conference for 5 days, right? That's where we know they're on a path of good success when we see more of them engaging in our tools and trainings, if that makes sense.
I would say also, Patrick, the buying power, right? They don't have to worry about everything from inks to paper to larger equipment, where, we got a phenomenal purchasing department that's not only negotiating with the network of the Postnet, several hundred units, but Alpha Graphics and 5 other brands internationally. And now when our purchasing department's negotiating on a particular product, service, or equipment, there's a lot of strength there when you're talking about almost 3,000 franchise brands in 50 countries.
Yeah, it's significant. So, I mean, that's another side of the business that they don't have to worry about. And
correct.
That, yeah, they're paying their royalty, but at the cost savings for different functions of the business, they get that back. How much does it cost to open up a Postnet? Like, what's a rough range?
So midpoint's about 220,000, but that also includes 40,000 of working capital.
Okay.
So we tend to be a little bit more conservative from the franchisor, meaning a little bit more working capital that's in our disclosure document, just to make sure that they're not undercapitalized, or if they, something goes awry in the first few months, Murphy's Law or an illness or whatever, that they are not behind the 8 ball from a capitalization
or some other variant.
Yeah, weird things like that. So yeah, in the low 200s, but that includes 40,000 of working capital.
And how do you guys ensure that they open up fast after training, they break even fast, and then they hit that income replacement where they're not looking back at their corporate job? How do you guys make them go step by step and like really support them to hit those milestones?
Oh,
it's an extremely structured process for that very reason, right? I mean, I think that's one of the key aspects of joining the brand, is having a discipline to that. So we have a person in charge of real estate that's dealing with that and making sure it's just right, with ideal traffic, visibility, space, utilities, everything. We have a purchasing team that's procuring all the equipment, from the front counter to the wall displays to the graphics to even the initial paper and inventory you need to open the doors. Then they're assigned an onboarding partner that is working with them through the training and then shows up before the opening day, validates they know what they're doing and the operations are ready, and then opens the door with them, does a ribbon cutting, makes sure that all the kinks are worked out. And then marketing is working hand in hand the whole time to have the website ready, do the soft launch, do the actual grand opening, and then start pushing that traffic. And so we found a really good rhythm and cadence that, between good location, visibility, good marketing, planning, strategy, we have a high success rate of hitting that break even on the business plan that Bill's team works on with the group. So yeah, I think those steps are really, really instrumental. And we, from a management standpoint, it's one of those, this is the checkpoints, this is the dates. Did we hit it? Did we miss it? Why? And everybody jumps on a call almost every week to go through everybody that's in onboarding and where they're at. And we also make sure from a resource standpoint, we don't set someone up when we don't have someone ready for them. So timing wise, that's something else. When they sign an agreement, we kind of lay out, okay, here's your dates. You may want this or you may want that, but this is what's going to work for everyone to be successful in getting you where you need to be.
I think, Patrick, the one thing I would add to that is somewhere in the process, we have a very, very robust training program. So remember, the vast majority do not have industry experience who join the brand. And our VP of Learning and Development and team have just put forth a very phenomenal in-person, virtual, on location, different phases of training to help that franchisee along that way that Ryan was suggesting, to get them open, understand the business, get to break even as soon as possible, and then, to your point, scale it.
And I imagine, like, if you look at customer acquisition or like franchisee acquisition costs, like, it's much easier to have more locations open by someone that's already part of the Postnet's community than having to educate someone about this opportunity, about franchising, and like go through that whole process.
Yeah. In fact, last year,
that second, third, fourth one goes really fast.
Yeah.
Because they know where they want to go. They know what they need. They've got the team ready to go. And so for all parties involved, those tend to go much, much faster. We're certainly, with those brand new first timers, non-industry veterans, we take our time. We use that build out as training, right? So if it's 3 months or 5 months to get that store, real estate acquired, build out done, signed off by the city to be open for business, all of that is going to be used for training and activities that help that owner be ready when the day comes.
So last year, Patrick, we actually had 5 multi-center owners do new locations, and we're expecting to do more than that this year.
Not bad in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Usually people are sitting tight. So that shows that they believe in Postnets right now, as well as in the future years. And are there any markets that you guys really want to be opening up Postnets in? Regions of the US, even internationally?
Yeah, so about 1/3 of our locations are in the US, which is my main focus. But with that said, we're wide open based on our territories and demographics and competitive analysis. I mean, we could open up several hundred more, and that's the plan. So there's certain markets that we'll look at by quarter, by calendar quarter, specifically if we have existing some brand awareness in the market, but we still have a lot of available territory. That tends to be good from a marketing standpoint, as well as if we're going after, as Ryan mentioned earlier, potential conversions. So independent pack and ship shops, and they say, oh yeah, I've seen 3 or 4 Postnets around. That gives them some comfort level on the franchise model, some brand awareness, but yet we still have territory available in those markets.
Yeah.
So the clusters really help.
Territory for urban versus, density based, so that even if you're in a smaller town or more rural area, there's an opportunity for you. So, but I would say there's probably an enhanced opportunity during the pandemic because of the impact to key downtown markets, right? That kind of closure and crippling of those markets for a period of time has created a new real estate opportunity that can give some prime storefronts as those markets return, and that will present some new opportunities for what might have been hard to get into, markets are now going to be a little bit easier for some of these Postnet opportunities. So excited to see, some of those major metro downtown areas start to get revitalized and more Postnets take advantage of that.
And to conclude today's conversation, what metrics are you two tracking weekly, daily to continue to grow Postnets and grow yourselves professionally?
Well, might be slightly two different lenses. I mean, first and foremost on my team, it's about getting interest in the brand, people that want to do the franchise, educating them on the franchise, the Postnet model. But certainly, near and dear to my heart as well is the performance of the existing owners, right? So gross sales, daily sales, accounts receivable, their margins and all that, but I'll defer to Ryan as well.
Yeah, I mean, we keep a keen eye on transactions, right? And we want to see a trend of daily transactions that's better than that same day last year, better than that day last week.
Wow. So you're tracking that daily transactions across the hundreds of locations.
Yeah, we finished our BI stack last year, so we can now see real-time transactions, throughout the month within a day, and we can compare really a trailing 12 or a trailing 5, whatever metric's important to you. But we're really astute to making sure that what is the pandemic doing? What's the market doing? Is there something else that we're not aware of? But are the owners continuing to drive success? And then the backup levers to that are website traffic, social media, traffic. What are those kind of awareness components that might be helping or hampering, so that we can tweak those dials quickly, right? If we're in the middle of a month, like we saw in January, where maybe Omicron has kind of slowed things down more than we expected, okay, how do we dial up those awareness dials so that we can stay on a track without doing it in February, right? We already know right now, 3 weeks in, that it's not quite as strong as we want because we got big ambitions. So now we're already thinking about, how to kind of pull those levers and see what we can do at the last week of the month.
That's really insightful. And talking to franchisors of all different levels, like a franchisor that only has like 20 or 30 units, like they don't have it's hard for them to get that data, and it'd be so costly. But if you can spread that cost across hundreds of locations and get the right data, then that's super impactful across the whole system.
Yeah, in more ways than we imagined once we got our hand on it. To identify certain regions that weren't using certain services, unearth why and encourage them, right? Or
saw this
margins.
The guys over in Texas are making 20% of the revenue just selling this product.
Exactly. I mean, just that, information sharing dramatically has improved our ability to grow and make those owners profitable, right? They're like, oh, if he's doing it, I can do it. And next thing you know, he's making more money, and it didn't take much more than just a few little tweaks. And that's the power of data, and it's great that we're starting to really get our arms around it for our owners.
I think the other thing I would add, Patrick, is obviously in the last year, and this is not unique to this brand, but from a staff and retention, it's becoming more challenging to find good people and keep them. And so we need to listen to our franchisees, hear what's happening by region across the country, and then making sure that we're collaborating and providing thought leadership on how we help them find talent, keep talent, avoid losing talent.
I imagine that's where the clusters really help, where if you're looking at Southern California and what's going on with labor there compared to maybe Texas or another state or metropolitan area, it's going to really vary.
Yeah, we can share best practices. So from if this owner has very high retention or low turnover, are there some components why, and make sure we're sharing that across the system.
Do you two have any concluding thoughts for someone that might want to invest in this industry and/or open up a Postnets?
Yeah, you can contact me if you're interested.
And we'll definitely make sure to leave the your contact information, Bill.
I was gonna say something similar, but slightly different, because I just had a friend of mine last year become a franchisee, and we were both talking about, if we'd only known, or if someone else would have known, franchising is a regulated industry. It is one of the most transparent processes you'll ever go through, and you don't have to make a decision until all of that's done. So the amount of information you can learn about the business, learn about other owners, the sales, the margins, etc., the things you want, right, is just amazing. So I would encourage anybody, even if you're just tinkling with the idea, go through a full franchise discovery process, and you'll learn more than you ever imagined. It'll help you shape is that for you? Is that the business for you, et cetera? So if nothing else, engage in the process, learn about it, and you'll be very impressed with whether you're all in or all out. I think that's the key that you want. And but you got to go through it to get that experience.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And but then even within the franchise community, there are brands that aren't quite as transparent or aren't quite as candid as I think we are, as I know we are, because the decision on both ends, franchisee and franchisor, is too big to get wrong. So we're very candid, we're very transparent, as Ryan said, because if we get that right from a cultural fit, if they're financially qualified, if they have the key traits based on what we know to be successful in our brand, then it's a win-win relationship for a long time. And that's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's most profitable for everyone,
Yep.
and everyone's happy at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah. Seeing owners celebrate 20 years, 30 years, renewing over and over and over again. That's what you want.
I mean, it's got to be infectious across other franchisees, that someone that just opened 2 years ago and they're seeing someone 20 years in with a couple locations.
Yeah.
Super exciting. So yeah, thanks for having us on today, Patrick. It's been great.
Thank you too. And
Yeah, appreciate it.
Bill, I'll be sure to include your contact information. I'll sync with you after this to include in the call notes. And I'll include also a link to Postnets, the website, for anyone that's interested in exploring this opportunity further.
Appreciate it. Enjoyed it very much.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.